I'm Warren Mayor Jim Fouts, and I'd like to welcome you to another session of Fouts Forum. Today's guest is Robert Gibbs. He is the president of Gibbs Planning Group, and he is a well-known author. He's authored 4 books. He's a preeminent planner. He's planned over 500 developments throughout the Americas, Europe, and the Pacific Rim. In addition to that, he also is a urban planner, and he's a real estate advisor. So whether it be lecturing, or whether at Harvard University, by the way, or whether it be planning one of his 500 developments throughout the world, not just throughout the country, or a number of other things, he's much sought after, and he's been quoted by APA as saying that not all sweetness and light, but one planner can ill afford to ignore his book. His most recent book, which is, I believe, The Principles of Urban Retail Planning and Development, which was in 2012. I guess you've offered some since then, but that's a must for everybody to read. Now, he's here today, obviously, for the main reason that we were very fortunate to get Mr. Gibbs to plan out our new downtown center, which will be located directly across from the GM Tech Center and a little bit above where Chrysler is. And by the way, between Chrysler and GM, they're now investing nearly $3.5 billion in new development in Warren. And of course, we have the Cadillac World headquarters just down the street, which was relocated from New York City to here in April. So we're really excited, but I'm excited to have you here today. So let's get right started with the first question. And Mr. Gibbs, briefly give your professional background in development. How did you get started in it? Where'd you go to school and things of that nature?
I am a licensed landscape architect and professional planner, and I attended Oakland University and got a master's degree from the University of Michigan in landscape architecture and urban planning. And we practiced for the big national firms and then started our own business 30 years ago. So this is our 30th anniversary.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to step back a minute. People are always curious about this. What motivated you to get you into planning? Was your father a planning? Did your parents encourage you? Or what was the key thing that said, this is the field for me?
Well, my father was an accountant and real estate developer, but I grew up in Pontiac. And okay. I saw Pontiac go from being a thriving city, the county seat of Oakland County, to a pretty dismal place. Mm. And it's coming back now, but it declined because of its master plan. It actually implemented a master plan that called for turning the downtown into a pedestrian mall. They put a giant ring road around the downtown in '64, and that killed the downtown. And that motivated me to learn about planning and learn how plans good can help revitalize downtowns, or bad can destroy downtowns.
Give our viewers a brief history of Gibbs Planning Group. Can you give us a brief history of your group 30 years ago and to the present?
We were founded in 1988, and we're a small office in downtown Birmingham, and we advise cities and institutions and universities. We worked for University of Pennsylvania, Wayne State, Ohio State University. We are advisors to Disney. We repositioned their downtown Disney project in Orlando. It's now Disney Springs. And work for a lot of real estate developers, the local developers, the national home builders. I worked for the Taubman Company before starting GPG. I was the urban planner for Mr. Taubman.
Which is an interesting background. Yeah. He's a prominent billionaire.
Yeah, right. He owns, the Taubman Company owns the 25 highest grossing, most profitable luxury centers in the country. And I helped them plan Cherry Creek in Denver, and one in Ohio, and one in New Jersey. So I learned the reality of planning by working for the Taubman Company, and I learned the creative part by working for the Smith Group.
You wrote an article on why developers are offering experiences to attract visitors. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, with the internet right now and the sharp decline of shopping online, which still is only 10% of overall shopping online, the retailers that just sell commodities like office supply stores, electronics, books, where you just go in and make a purchase and go home, can't compete with the internet. But places that offer an experience that you can't get on the internet, where you can go and have a dinner and walk around on a sidewalk and hang out in a park or a plaza, those places are thriving. And So there's a giant rush right now to build town centers like Warren will be building, where people can go and have a wonderful experience.
So it's not about walkability, it's more about touching, feeling, and experiencing things with your body rather than something that you can order online.
That's right, where you have a nice evening and where you have a social element, where you can see your friends and neighbors and you can meet new people. You can walk your dog around and people can pet your dog. People are seeking socialization. They can't get that in their living room clicking on the internet.
I'm glad to hear that because I'm old-fashioned, of course, and I would rather go out to places as do it on the internet. What are some of Gibbs' outstanding developments in the United States? What, if you were to pick a couple of outstanding developments, which you mentioned Disney, and I think you were in Auckland and Denver or Colorado, which, if you could narrow it down to a few, 3 or 4, which ones would you pick?
Well, we've been fortunate to work in all 50 states. And we're most known for the work that we did for Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston is a beautiful historic city. We were advisors for them for about 25 years, off and on. We're known locally for the village of Rochester. We did the plan for that for the Aikens Company. And for the Birmingham Master Plan. We did a Birmingham Master Plan with DPZ Architects 25 years ago to revitalize the downtown. We're currently updating the plan and doing a citywide plan for Birmingham.
What about, I noticed in your biography profile, what have you, it said you've done work in Europe and the Pacific Rim. Can you give me an example of a city in Europe and one in the Pacific Rim?
We have worked in Dublin, Ireland, and we just finished an assignment in Warsaw, Poland. Poland is really just all conventional strip shopping centers. And a developer retained us to do the Poland's first town center, like you will be building in Warren. So that was a very large project. We just finished a large assignment in Monterrey, Mexico, a Cesar Pelli architect designed town center. That's going to be almost 30 million square feet, where we're planning the ground level, the retail part. In Australia, we worked for, in Sydney and Melbourne, for their largest real estate developer, the Queensland Investment Company, and we advised them on how to reposition about 25 million square feet of their centers. They wanted to go from conventional shopping centers into walkable town centers. We are experts in planning walkable town centers.
Which is the trend to begin with.
That's the trend, yeah.
Especially among the millennials.
That's right. The millennials don't like shopping in the malls very much.
Actually, they say they don't want cars anymore. I don't know if that's true. That's not good for Detroit.
I hope not.
So, what about developments in Michigan? Let's focus in on Michigan. You said Rochester, Birmingham. You want to talk a little bit about your developments? Does the city come to you? I think we did come to you. How are you known? I mean, you got all these cities. Do they call you up? They send you emails, or how do you get in touch with the city?
We're very lucky that
they come to you.
They come to us and ask us if we'll help. Once in a while, we compete. We just interviewed for a project yesterday, but we're fortunate cities come to us. In Michigan, we've done plans in Grand Rapids. We just finished an assignment for Kalamazoo, for Holland, Bay City. Northville, Birmingham, Southfield. We've worked for over 30 cities. We did a large assignment in the Upper Peninsula for the city of Marquette.
What city in the
Marquette.
Marquette.
Which is a wonderful place.
It is. It's a beautiful place.
Very beautiful, yeah.
What about in Birmingham? You know, when I think of Birmingham, I've known Birmingham forever. It's always been a place to go. How did you change Birmingham? What did you do to Birmingham? Because it's always been kind of a destination place. Although maybe not so much in the past.
Thank you. We were the co-planner with DPZ for the master plan 20 years ago. When the Somerset Mall expanded, it threatened Birmingham's vitality. And so we created a master plan to allow 5-story buildings. At the time, they only allowed 1-story buildings. And
is that the key to success?
Yeah.
I notice and we're going to get into Warren, ours is going to be, I think, 7 or 8 stories. So.
Yeah, changing the zoning to allow higher buildings, but also putting in high standards. There's a rush right now to quality by developers. So Birmingham implemented high standards, that the buildings had to be built out of durable materials and they had to be well designed and there had to be retail on
I
the
like
first
that,
level.
by the way. That allows permanence and quality.
Yeah, Mayor, that's the right thing to do, to have the high standards, and Warren has been implementing that.
What about Rochester?
We worked on the Village of Rochester. It's an outdoor. It's the Michigan's first town center. That was an enclosed mall, Meadowbrook Mall,
Okay.
that was mostly vacant. And the ownership, the Akins Group, came to us to help reposition that, and we advised that they tear the mall down and build a town center with a street and a main street in it, which they did, and that has been very, very successful.
What about your approach in the development of vacant storefronts? That's really interesting for every older city like Warren, Detroit, or what have you. What do you do with vacant storefronts? Do you see a storefront and see a different picture there, or what?
Well, first of all, there is a demand for retail in cities, and a lot of the times the cities are underperforming or they're vacant for non-market reasons, either because they have ugly storefronts or the property owners won't cooperate. We were retained by Dan Gilbert's company, Bedrock, to reposition his properties in Detroit 7 or 8 years ago. And at the time, you remember Detroit was pretty vacant. Yeah. Bedrock had a vision to turn it around, and we were their advisors and completed a plan to assist them with doing that. And again, they did it by having high standards. They invested in quality, and quality attracts quality.
I agree with that. Yeah, that indicates permanence as opposed to obsolescence.
Right.
What about, how do you define a walkable downtown? That's become a buzzword today among millennials, allegedly, and everybody wants a walkable downtown. What is a walkable downtown?
It's harder than it sounds. A walkable downtown requires that you have retail and active storefronts on the ground level. It requires that you have walkable sidewalks and streets. It requires that the streets be designed with traffic calming principles so that they're narrow and that the cars go a little slowly. But it also requires density. It requires that people live there. So unlike in the suburbs where you don't want a lot of people in your neighborhood, in a city we want a lot of people. So it requires a lot of houses, a lot of density. And as much as it sounds natural, it's illegal in most parts of the country to build.
It is. We had to change some of our rules to get here.
Right. It's
now,
hard to do.
Let's jump into, what are you planning for Warren's new downtown? Obviously, walkable is part of it, more dense is part of it. Let's talk a little bit about Warren's downtown. How does that fit into the concept of a walkable downtown? And what do you see that you're trying to do in Warren that will make it a success?
First of all, we were delighted to be asked to assist Warren with the town center. And our plan called for a variety of land uses, including a luxury hotel and restaurants, grocery store, gourmet quality grocery store, and residential. We also called for streetscape, wide sidewalks, and a variety of experience.
Now, one thing you missed indicating, and I think this is key for us, and I'd like you to comment on that one, we want General Motors to help us, and they have committed to being a partner, and some other businesses, MEDC is a state, and a number of things, but GM is key. And I believe one of the keys is building the all-weather bridge that will go from the GM Tech Center to the Signature Hotel. I call it a Signature Hotel because I think this will be the first full-service hotel in Macomb County, which I think is pretty important, right? So what role will the bridge play in making this a success? I think it's a key, is it not?
Yeah. Yes. As you know, the Tech Center is a city in itself. I think there's over 23,000.
Approaching 25,000.
25,000 workers there, so it's a whole city in itself. And being able to connect directly into that with a bridge across Van Dyke is very important for both parties. It will help GM, I think, attract and have a higher quality of life for their workers because they'll be able to walk across the street and use the hotel or use the restaurants and shops. And it'll provide a lot of people into the town center, so it's really, really vital that that.
And I'm going to indicate one criticism I've heard from some detractors. They say we don't need a Signature Hotel in Warren. We've got plenty of hotels. Why is that an incorrect statement?
It's really not true. Really, Southeast Michigan lacks high-quality hotels. There's only
we have a lot of run-of-the-mill hotels down here, But in terms of a signature hotel, a full-service hotel, a hotel that will service the General Motors needs, they have a worldwide people that come in. They come in from, I think, China. They come in from Germany, Brazil, all over. And my understanding is they can't find a quality hotel here, so they go to the Townsend in Birmingham, or they go to the Royal Park Place in Rochester. So this should have their people being able to go across the street and stay in a quality hotel rather than Birmingham or Rochester. Is that correct?
That's correct. This full-service signature hotel will be a major amenity for not only the tech center and their workers, but this whole corridor along Van Dyke and this whole employment center. We've done a lot of research in Grosse Pointe recently, and the number one thing people in Grosse Pointe want is a hotel. And this will provide needed rooms and facilities for people for this whole immediate area.
I'm glad you said that, because my argument is that I want this to be a destination place, not just for Warren residents, but people that live as far as Grosse Pointe, maybe even Royal Oak, Sterling Heights. And what I have a problem with, I'm going to give you one specific grocer. Whole Food apparently has done a study and said, well, you know, Warren doesn't really meet the needs of Whole Food. We want people to make an average of, I don't know, $200,000 a year and drive a Rolls Royce and live in a, you know, a mansion or what have you. Not quite that extreme, but they've been a little reticent at locating in Warren or Macomb County because they have this stereotype. I think they're wrong, because the GM Tech Center, their average employee, I think, makes close to $100,000 a year. They're engineers. We have the Cadillac World headquarters down the street, and we have a lot of other places. So how do we overcome this bias on the part of grocers like Whole Food that this would be a successful location?
I think Whole Foods is mistaken. Warren is a very strong market. As you know, part of our assignment for the city was to do a retail market analysis, and the facts are there. There is an overwhelming market demand here for a high-quality grocer and high-quality shops. The hotel will bring a number of people here every day that will help the town center support better quality cafes and shops and restaurants.
And let's go back a minute. I think you already did, but I'm going to kind of review it. What, first of all, attracted you to take the Warren assignment? Obviously, you're sought after. You can go to any city you want to, so I assume at this point you can pick and choose. Why did you decide to come to Warren? It's not one of your biggest projects. It's a little bit of a challenge. We've never had a downtown, and we're going to make a downtown from nothing, whereas if you went to Birmingham or Rochester or Royal Oak, they already have a downtown. So what attracted you to Warren?
Well, first of all, Mayor, it was an honor to work with you and work with your staff and your administration. What intrigues me about Warren is that it's the classic 1970s and 60s suburb. You grew at a time when everything was suburban.
Urban sprawl.
Yeah. And so there's thousands of places like Warren that need to create a walkable place to stay sustainable. And I was very interested in the challenge and the opportunities here. And we know, because we do market research, we know statistically there is a demand here for high quality. And combined with having the city hall here and the courts and the tech center, we knew a town center would work here. And Warren really is a prototype. It's a prototype model now that we use all over the country of how a former or inner ring suburbs can rebuild themselves into a town center. We've been asked to help the city of Troy build the town center, another beautiful suburb, but without a walkable town center. So our work with you, we use really as a prototype to help other communities, and we consider it one of our most successful plans that we've worked on, and we have been very, very honored to work with you on.
I'm honored that you took the job. When you did a market study, you mentioned earlier a market study. What did the market study say? Because again, there are detractors that say, oh, people are not going to come to Warren, they're going to go to Royal Oak, they're going to go to Birmingham, they're going to go to downtown Detroit, they're not going to come here. What does your market study say to dispute that? Because everybody said this is a pie in the sky, and of course every mayor going back 50 years has been trying to build a downtown. I think we're going to do it, but there are detractors. How do you answer those detractors?
Well,
related to your market study?
We do market research for a lot of real estate developers and stores. We tell them where to open stores. And we found that Warren's trade area is over 250,000 people. More than 250,000 people live here. Some very high incomes, but there's a lot of very interesting people here that are looking for a place to go to and shop and recreate. So statistically, Warren has very strong demographics. Plus having the library, the tech center, the city hall, the courthouses, the hotel, and the new housing that's going to be built here, combined with the beautiful square that's here already, really creates a win-win place. And statistically, the demographics are here.
Let's talk about the specific demographics when we're talking about people. Obviously, the downtown is going to be divided into the Signature Hotel, which I think is the anchor for everything else, the upscale commercial development, the grocery store, and the lofts. Why don't you talk about each of those components and how your market research fits into that? Maybe let me go back to the first one. What kind of people, individuals, do you think we're going to attract? Is it going to be younger, older, middle-aged? Is it going to be millennial? Is it going to be baby boomer? Where do you see the kind of people that are going to move into the lofts? Where are they going to be?
Well, foremost, the town center's businesses and residences will serve people that already live in Warren.
So the lofts will be help for the...
Yeah, the new residential, the new businesses, the grocery store. Their primary customers will be Warren's resident. I think Warren has somewhere around 130,000 residents.
About 135 to 140,000, yeah.
So there's a lot of empty nesters in Warren that are living in a nice home right now, but maybe they want to downsize or they want a new kitchen or new bathroom. So the housing here will appeal to a lot of Warren's residents. The shops and walkability and the grocery store will appeal to those residents. But it's also going to appeal to people that live around here, that live in the Grosse Pointes or the St. Clair Shores or the Royal Oak or Ferndales or Hazel Parks or the north side of Detroit. There will be a lot of people that will find this interesting, and I think the town center that you're visioning will serve really as a town center for this greater area, but predominantly for Warren's residents. This will give them a walkable town center that they can be proud of and they can use.
I like pride. I think this infuses a lot of civic pride into going to downtown Warren. Now, what specific types of commercial development have you planned out or do you recommend or you see for us? Pubs, upscale shopping for men's and women. Is it going to be more, you think, entertainment, or is it going to be a combination, or what?
I think mostly it'll be local neighborhood serving, anchored with a gourmet grocery store that has good produce and meats and specialty items. But also there will be cafes and little shops, probably personal services like maybe a hair care, maybe a gift shop, possibly some clothing stores or specialty boutiques, but mostly goods and services to service the people that live here, that come to the library, that come to the city hall. And the restaurants are being designed to face the town square that you've already built. So people will be able to sit outside and dine and overlook the town square, look at the fountain and the activities that go on.
How many stories do you envision the commercial? They'll have lofts or residential development above that. How many stories will that be? 1, 2, or 3, or what?
It could be up to 3 stories for the commercial, and then I think the residential can be 5 or 6 stories tall. And all in all, we estimate that there will be somewhere between 15 and 20 specialty stores here, plus the grocery store and the restaurants.
And the specialty will obviously all be across from the GM Tech Center for the most part, right?
That's right. And so if you're a restaurant here, you'll have both daytime activity. You'll be busy from the GM Tech Center and the people that work around here. But in the evening, you'll have the residents, and the residents, of course, in the daytime, but and then also the hotel users.
What about the hotel? What do you envision? What do you see? I believe the hotel is going to be, I think, 7 or 8 stories. So that'll be the preeminent part of the city. What do you see the hotel? What kind of special services will the hotel offer? Will it have a nightclub? What do you see specifically?
First of all, the hotel is being designed as a signature building. It will become a landmark for really Southeast Michigan. It'll be something that people will put on postcards, and it'll be noteworthy because of its design. But it will offer a very quality restaurant, and then a more moderate restaurant and a gift shop, and I think it'll have some meeting spaces for conferences. So The hotel will be a resource for businesses that are here. It'll let them have more meetings here and attract employees here. And also it'll be a resource for residents that live here, because if they have people out of town and guests, they can stay here.
Tell me, this is a trivial question, but it reminds me years ago. Years ago, Warren had an upscale hotel that didn't last too long, but I believe it was called some kind of Warren Hotel farther down. Today it's, I think, a senior center, but I remember at one time President Bush stayed here, and we had some prominent people that stayed here. Do you see this hotel as being the type that maybe if there's a prominent person in the area? We also have Andiamo's. I think that helps out the town center a little bit because they have top-night entertainment. Do you see prominent people wanting to stay at our signature hotel?
Yes. There will be sports stars and celebrities and really a lot of VIPs that'll seek out this hotel, because Warren is right at the crossroads of the region, so you're within a 15-minute drive of almost anywhere in the region.
So that's also key.
Yeah. Plus, putting the hotel next to a town center and a town square and a library gives the hotel guests something to do. Today's business travelers don't want to check into a hotel on a freeway and then sit in the room all night and watch TV. They want to be able to check in and walk around and enjoy shopping and dining in restaurants, and that's what you'll be offering.
What is the schedule for completion of our new downtown, Warren's new downtown?
Well, it's hard to say accurately, but I think groundbreaking could be within a year, and the whole center probably could be open within 2 years, would be an educated guess.
That would be great. Warren's nearing completion of the master plan. What value is the plan to your development in Warren? How important is the master plan? It'll be our first master plan in, I don't know, 50 years or something. How important is that?
Well, where town centers have been built before, and we've advised over 500 town centers, it has a very positive ripple effect on the surrounding land uses. That people will, when this is built, we find people invest in their homes, they upgrade their homes, they invest in their offices. It'll attract more businesses here to be close to the town center. And it'll also attract a lot of young families to move here, and a lot of young people, because they like being by vibrant, walkable town centers.
And I like that because I'm doing advertisements on television. I don't know if you've seen them. And we want young families to move in. So you think this will convince them to move in here?
Yes, the millennials want to live in walkable places. That's why the Ferndales and Royal Oaks and other communities are so strong. And this will give Warren that walkable town center that the millennials want to live in.
Do you think Warren can develop what's happened in Ferndale, what's happened even in Hazel Park with Mabel Gray's? Do you think we can develop some signature restaurants or places to go where people want to go? Or how do we do that? I guess, is that just luck? Like Hazel Park was kind of a city that didn't offer anything, and suddenly Mabel Gray is there, and then they've got other restaurants. How do we go about that? Is that luck? Or
it's more than luck. It's really having a vision and implementing the plan. And there is a shortage of walkable places. So it's highly likely that some great restaurants and some great specialty retailers will want to locate here in the town center.
How good is it to have Andiamo's down the street? They get prominent entertainers that come here. Does that help the downtown out too?
Yeah, this will help both parties. The restaurant will do better because people can go there for a nightlife or for entertainment or fine dining, but they can also will be able to combine it with a stop at a coffee shop or to get a dessert or some shopping. So both groups will benefit from each other.
Now, there's been some talk that the top of the hotel might be a nightclub. It might be an outdoor place in the summertime or fall, or it could be a cigar lounge. I don't like that because I'm a non-smoker, but it wouldn't be for Jules anymore, thank goodness. But what do you see? Do you see something needed for the top, or do you think that's irrelevant?
No, the top level of the hotel will have one of the best views in southeast Michigan.
Oh, really?
And at night, it would be really a magical view. So it's highly likely that if a patio and plaza are built up there, that a hotel or a club or somebody want to go up there, it would be a really wonderful.
Do you think it should be all weather or just for spring, summer, and fall, or what do you envision?
People in Michigan are hardy enough to eat outside, and I think you will find it to be year-round. Okay, they'll put heaters and protection out there, but people like in Michigan, people will dine outside year-round, but it'll be an extraordinary view. You'll be able to see the Detroit skyline and Southfield and Birmingham, and of course Saarinen's Tech Center. It'll be quite a view.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Let me just drift off with a few things that I was curious about you, not necessarily about Warren, but maybe you can compare. I happen to be interested in Asheville, North Carolina. My mother grew up on the Biltmore estate, and you told me about that. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Asheville. It's kind of an upscale cosmopolitan city, isn't it today?
It is.
Art city?
It's in the low parts of the mountains, so it has a good climate. It's cooler in the summer, and it's a moderate winter. But Asheville is a really busy, popular spot right now. We were retained by the Biltmore family, the Vanderbilt family heirs, to develop some of the land that they owned as a walkable town center.
So the Biltmore or the Vanderbilt family still owns that?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
the heir,
Because isn't the
Cecil branch.
CNN commentator, I can't think of his name now, isn't his mother Gloria Vanderbilt?
Yeah, right, yeah.
I can't think, what's his name, CNN?
Cooper.
Yeah.
Anderson Cooper. So we're working with this. We were advisors to the Cecil family, the heirs that they owned the property, and we advised them, and they built a really fabulous town center, similar to what you're doing, a little larger
so
scale.
we're going to be equal with some of these big
Well,
towns.
it'll be similar. They have a luxury, they have a full-service Marriott hotel, and they have cinemas and restaurants. It's a large, walkable town center.
What about Disney? I'm curious about Walt Disney. You did some work for them too.
We were very fortunate to be advisors for Disney. We advised them on properties overseas in the Pacific Rim and with their properties in North America. They owned an early town center called Downtown Disney, and they wanted to reposition the center, so we were retained to do the market research of what kinds of shops and restaurants they could support and how they could reposition it, and then we advised them about how to redesign it. So they've reopened it now as Disney Springs, and they're a great client. We learned a lot from them, and I think they learned a little bit from us.
Well, before I conclude, I'd just like to ask you to comment on going back to Warren. Do you have any predictions, or what's your final word on this new development, the new Warren Town Center? How do you think it'll have the biggest impact on the city, and why should we offer infrastructure? We're going to have to obviously offer some inducements for that in terms of inducement and things like that in MEDC and what have you. How do you
We're very
comment?
bullish on Warren and communities like Warren that invest in walkable town centers. There is going to be a rush for millennials to live in walkable places, and that will translate into investment in residential and commercial properties throughout the city. And I think it's necessary for older suburbs to create walkable town centers to be sustainable and to be competitive.
Can I quote you as saying that Warren could be the new destination place within a year to 2 years?
Oh, there's no question in my mind that when this is implemented, that Warren will be one of the destination places for Southeast Michigan.
Well, thank you, Robert Gibbs, and thank you for a great interview today. And Robert Gibbs is going to be the miracle worker for Warren, and you heard what he said, a destination place, a place that everybody will be coming to Warren because we have a preeminent developer and we have an exciting place where when you buy a home in Warren, the price goes up because you got a quality development here. So thank you very much and have a great day, and thank you for another Fouts Forum.